Something big is happening in Brantford's housing market, and it's probably not what you expect. Unlike many surrounding areas, sales are actually up 19% since last year, but prices have been quietly slipping another 8%. So, what's really going on? Is this the long awaited comeback or is something else brewing? Let's take a look. My name is Morgan Little with the Golfi team, and this market update for November 2025 will hopefully help you understand exactly where you stand if you are looking to buy or sell in Brantford in the near future. Until then, let's get into it. Sales up, prices down. What's really happening? Well, like I said, there is something kind of big happening. It's interesting because sales are climbing. Homes transactions jumped nearly 19% compared to the same time last October, signaling renewed buyer activity and market momentum after months of hesitation. This is something that differs from a lot of regions around it. Like Hamilton's not seeing that necessarily. They're seeing sales dropping month over month. But something is that is similar to a lot of markets is that the prices continue to slip. Average prices dropped another 8%, creating unique dynamic that's reshaping the local market in unexpected ways. Is this kind of the comeback where we're seeing more sales happening, even though prices are slipping? And keep in mind, prices aren't dropping that dramatically, but they are down, especially compared to the height of the market a few years ago and even compared to just last year. But it's not a collapse, right? It's a quiet correction that's happening. So let's take a look at what happened in October 2025, now that we're in November. And, like I said, the data is revealing a bit of a transition. Record inventory levels are, being met with increased buyer activity, which is really what we want to see after such a slow year that we've had. So, average sale price $635,000 across the Brantford market. That is down just over 8% from the same time last year. The benchmark price sits very similarly, a 637,000. That's down about 6% from last year. The benchmark represents the most common house with the most kind of common features. That's what that means. So it's really sitting close to your average price. In a market like Brantford, you don't necessarily have some of the larger outlying areas that with higher priced homes that drag the average price up. So your benchmark and your average are pretty similar. There was 173 home sales in October. That's up 19%, 18.5%. That's a big jump. So again, what we want to be seeing. New listings that came on the market were 345 homes. That's up almost 2% from last year. And that's adding to the total number of listings of 667 homes currently available. That is the highest inventory level in the last 10 years. So, that's a notable number for sure. 3.9 months of inventory, which is not nearly as much as Hamilton. Hamilton's sitting almost at 6. So again, more activity happening in Brantford here. And you have a sale to list ratio of 98.9%. And what that means is homes are selling for 99% of the asking price. So there's not a lot of slashing of prices happening, which you're seeing in some other markets. So we're looking at more of a balanced market in Brantford than you're seeing in a lot of other areas. But there's still a lot of opportunity for buyers out there if you're in the market. After years of fierce competition, bidding wars, the tables have turned. Sellers are feeling the pinch for sure. I'm working with a few sellers in Brantford that I honestly thought that we would see more activity, and we haven't. So it's tough out there still for sellers for sure, with these record inventory levels combined with the two consecutive bank rate cuts, and then the previous cuts we've had. We thought we would see even more activity, but we're not there yet. We're not out of the weeds just yet. And so the strategy is, especially for sellers, I've mentioned it many times, but pricing properly upfront is the key thing here because homes are selling, but it requires a fundamentally different approach from last year. The average days on market is 24, which means that's 24 days is the average amount of time it takes for a home that does sell to sell. So we got to pull out the emotional attachment to prices, and to your home, and look at the facts. That's part of my job, is to try to keep people emotionally detached from what their home means to them, and look at it from a strategic point of view of a buyer who's in the market. Last year's comparables They're not applicable even 6 months ago. Even a few months ago, 3 months ago, I'm working with a buyer who, you know, I know that they're thinking about what I might have told them 3 months ago, what we could do with their property, but they took their time before they really got together to list. And so what I said then isn't necessarily applicable. The comparables have changed. Some of the properties that were on the market then are still sitting on the market. So we have to look at that. Presentation really matters with 667 active listings competing for buyers' attention. The first impressions are everything. So you got to think about staging. You got to have proper photography. Don't even get me started on these agents who take cell phone photos where you can see them standing in the bathroom taking the picture and it's all crooked. It drives me crazy. It's not going to get your house sold. I'm sorry. And being on the golfy team, we have the biggest marketing channels possible in the area in Canada, in the Golden Horseshoe. So work with an agent that will get your house, properly presented and marketed uh, to the most people possible. That's what gets a home sold. So the good news is that well priced, well presented homes are selling in an average of 24 days. So keep that in mind. What happened to that fall market that never came? Where's the usual fall frenzy? A lot of people have been asking that because traditionally fall brings urgency. Families are settling in before the holidays and want to make that move before winter comes, but that hasn't really happened this year. Despite multiple rate cuts throughout the year and 2 consecutive ones, will we see another one in December? Potentially, but will that have an impact? It remains to be seen. It hasn't really so far. So we have a record supply. Like I said, the most in 10 years with 667 homes available, cautious buyers. And it's not a boom or a bust. It's kind of a genuinely balanced market that we're looking at. But you got to price strategically, like I said. And moving forward, for the rest of the year, what's left of it, we may see another cut. It may have zero impact as people are getting prepared for the holidays. Into 2026, I think things are going to stay pretty flat. This might be the new normal with, rates stabilized, activity, staying fairly consistent without the extreme swings that we've seen recently. And then into the next year and into 2027, we may start to see things start to pick up near the end of next year and into 2027. So for buyers now, you have the pick of the litter. I don't know what you're waiting for. If you are a buyer who's been sitting on the fence, there's no need now. Now is your time to get out there and get some good deals. For sellers, you got to be realistic. Like I said, we have to look at the data and try to take the emotion out of it and try to be patient. Really, I know that's maybe not what you want to hear, but that's what it is if you're trying to sell in this market. But behind every stat is a real story and real people. We talk about percentages and inventory levels, but life is still happening. Families are finding their forever homes. First-time buyers are getting their foot in the door, and retirees are downsizing. So those things are all happening. Houses are still selling. If you're a seller and you want to be one of those houses that are selling, you can. And if you are ready to make your next move, I'm happy to have a chat. Like I said, we're part of the biggest team in the region, and we're happy to help, even if it's just to pick my brain and talk about, strategy moving forward, what your options are. Happy to do so. There's a link below. And until then, I'll see you on the next one.